what to do in the meantime, and why it doesn't matter. The audiobook by Dr. Michael Richard Lucas. Narrated by me, Samantha. Arranged and produced by Michael Richard Lucas. Chapter 10. There's more, and other possible chapter titles. A textbook treatment of rhetorical gymnastics for the 21st century. The author. Turns out, not everything should be monetized. This is the first time I posted SNL. Someone asked me if I was a God-fearing man. I told them I was afraid of everything. So, yeah, God too, I suppose. A lot of famous and important people throughout history died from syphilis. So our character stopped wearing protection when having sex with random strangers. On the island, our character starts disliking everything. They work hard labor. They leave their parents to live with the dock boys. They deal in the secret business of drugs and other bad stuff, smuggling, etc. Those gal darn dock boys, they had been waiting a shipment of illegal stuff. There was some success. There was some failure. They use guerrilla tactics because of their small numbers. They take over the island. This half of the film is always filmed in the rain and mostly dark. The camera is strange. There are scenes of drug use, etc. In the end, nobody but the dock boys survive, and the movie ends with no moral resolution. Our character is crowned king of the new island, which set up the network nicely for a second season. It wasn't necessarily that Nance and Randy were racist homophobic, as much as they were simply uncomfortable with everything, especially when it came to their cultural blind spots. They were so socially terrified of being offensive. They were offensive just by being themselves. Our character was now-ish, somehow lecturing on creativity. They forgot why, they almost forgot where, but they could see students in front of them. So that had to mean something? How can we make the process of contemplating one's creative history less scary for our students and ourselves? Furthermore, in the act of being creative, how do we make the necessary risks less scary, thereby allowing ourselves the ability to engage in creative endeavors more often? As we need moments of playfulness and empathy in our individual creative experiences, so too do we need them when we look back on our completed or incompleted creative projects. This can be an especially embarrassing task, or avoided altogether, as it is yet another moment of vulnerability in our neoliberal lives. One can guide students and oneself through this process in a playful way. For example, you can have your students, or yourself, make a parody of their previous work, something they made, something they wrote, a performance speech they gave, etc. This parody, not chastising biting satire, can allow them to evaluate what went wrong right, dress up within their previous positions, and create something that moves them beyond the previous experience. It's not so much that AI was starting to write their resumes and cover letters, it's that they still had to write resumes and cover letters to get money to survive, for healthcare, etc. If they just gave them money to survive, they wouldn't have to write resumes and cover letters. If the limitations requirements were artificially imposed, why couldn't the response be just as artificial, bureaucratic, and vague? The upper class would demand controls on AI, once they realized how much more efficient AI would be for everyday people, especially since all the industries based on inefficiencies would crumble. Resumes and the cover letters deserved to be written by AI. AI was the only logical response to resumes and cover letters. Our writer would forget all the strange thoughts that led up to their partial seizures. The thoughts were somehow familiar in this space-time, a familiarity that made no sense. Were they generating these partial seizures with their own writing? Our writer had no context for these thoughts. They were someone else's. They were familiar, but also the most foreign. It was a cold and windy night. It was perfect. All this had to lead to something, didn't it? It didn't. It did. Whatever happened to all the talk about brain cells? Everywhere you'd go, people were reporting on brain cells. This or that kills this many brain cells. Drugs, glue, headbanging, everything bad the youth were doing, etc. There was also talk of what is good for your brain cells. Sleep, fish oil, eating fruits and vegetables, etc. Why don't we talk about brain cells as much? Then came the antioxidants, etc. What if the afterlife is worse? Good thing to keep in mind. Most of our lives are spent fulfilling requirements created by fucking idiots. Lol. Wait. Why is anything the way it is? Extremely normal political party walking away. Dangerously slow. From dumpster fire. Fucking Jerry. Chill to pull ratio getting wrecked by this pandemic. Our character was irresponsible for others. Also themselves. I can't do it all for you. I can barely do anything for you. Are there enough through lines to keep this thing together? It will be nice to see what was repeated, what held together well, out of happenstance, to write the many different stories at once, to make fun collisions, to tell the experience. How and why? The same problem with space-time. Travel. You might know where you want to go, but it's as impossible to pick a now point to depart from. There can only be a now. If everything else turns into a future, moving away from a past, now can't exist in a vacuum. If we could pause the now, that prevents the future. If there is no future, there is no past. And then, there is no now. No now now. No no now. No no now. Space-time is always leaving, or going to leave, or has already left, going to have left. That's how we depart, arrive from space-time. Even if only in our heads. Our characters should try to write a book that revealed this difficulty. Sex is fine, but have you ever nailed an explanation of direct and indirect objects? This is the best one I've seen. Are my fingernails growing faster? Our character was training their dog to be a human, so our character could be a dog. Did the stars even fight any wars? Domino's Pizza themed office supplies. Nobody out pizza's Jabba the Hutt. No, I'm the president. Wrong answers only. Failed casino owner, surprisingly bad leader of the freest nation. Great time to double down on Orange Man. Nation takes pride in wildly uninformed opinions. They call this freedom. Stop paying your debts. They can't arrest all of us. Our character and their friend laughed at the same time. Not really. But let's make some overarching literary connections here. Yes, friend, not lover, not family, and not best friend, but also not merely an acquaintance, not merely their peer, not merely their co-worker, etc. A friend. These details should tell you a lot about their relationship already, making their backstory irrelevant. Our writer could tell our reader, there were ups and downs, but we can assume as much. Also, they don't merely work together, but let's not exclude that possibility either. If so, friends beyond the workplace, but barely. Most of their attributes and abilities were within the same range of each other, if not intellectually equal, above or below, then something else, to even it out, etc. And so on. Both enjoy alcohol the same, a strong connector, a forgiver of faults, which is fine, so long as alcohol is present. This should give you a good idea of one of our characters' particular friends. Again, not lover, not enemy, not relation, etc. When quarantine is over, dogs will be able to talk, but they aren't going to stop. If you feel like you've read this before, you almost have. 30-something still waiting to be discovered. Fiscally racist, but also racistly racist. He might not have been a great president, or even a good president, or even a decent human, or mid-mammal. Where was I going? But at least he was a genuinely great person. Eyes move side to side quickly. He wasn't. Student majoring in English literature is writing term paper on identity politics and social justice. Solves everything. or at least starts important conversation. Younger self thought our character would have been in more street races by now. How were we supposed to know fascism would lead to fascism? Extremely normal political party oppose human existence. Take strong stance against oxygen. You mean to tell me there are rich and powerful perverts in both political parties? Mind blown. Are there any hollow earthers? I could believe it. I'm done with the grind. Chill is the new grind. When do I get health care? If our character was suffering, they must be a genius. Or they weren't really suffering that much. Every living thing. Cool if I poop here. We don't have enough room for refugees, but we have enough room for Montana? Thus far, we can take what has already been assumed, and move forward with our story. Our character and their friend were walking between one thing and another thing. All we ever do, until enough things had happened. Then they can sleep and do it over again. A night of flashes only, moments more important than other moments. Therefore, other moments forgotten, but usually not in such stark contrast. Not the first night of many, but also not the last night of none. Our character assumed correctly this space-time. They had about 2 more years of friendship left with their friend. Paradoxically, they were finally motivated to hang out with them. Hopefully hopelessly, these good times reminded them of others, etc. The years added up, until someone died, deciding what was optional, and not optional. That's life space-time, baby. 30-something entering room asking pointless question to nobody in particular. Realizes he is a dad now. Philosopher doesn't publish due to religious beliefs. I want expensive and insufficient healthcare. Hospitals. You owe us a shit ton of money. Me. Grift accomplished. Alcohol commercials in the past. Look at all this cool stuff. Want a beer? Alcohol commercials now. Fuck it. What else were you going to do today? Really? Nance and Randy even called ahead. But apparently, it didn't matter? With the general plot progression in mind, we find our character somewhere with their friend. Again, not yet enemy, or spouse, etc. So you can imagine this night was one of a handful that were good enough to make them friends, for long enough for them to be considered friends. At this point in the story, this is why our character already feels familiar. By just mentioning they had at least one friend, we all know how friends work. This fell within that range. The necessary self-other empathy for critical creativity, not overly judgmental. A moment of vulnerability, a rediscovery, the golden nugget that provided the original inspiration, allowing them to understand the context. Might not have been perfect. They might have had the right idea, just not enough space-time, support, etc. Seeing their reasons fail, the seasons fall, etc. Not just the self. How could the process have been different? Allowing them, at least, to disagree with themselves, the self that was the original creator of the project. Within a larger process, a richer description, a wider view of problems and solutions. What tentative rules can this provide for future projects? Anticipate creating something that will provide an impetus for creativity for ourself in the distant future. Only what you shine a light on can provide a view. Apparently, mission not impossible. Thriving via illegal drugs. We are a slipper family. Younger self thought I'd be more involved with pyramid adventures by now. Top questions to ask at the end of a disastrous interview. Which faculty voted for Orange Man and how long do I have to pretend to listen to them when they are talking? During our characters' space-time, they had to fight against an ever-increasing lack of control. In this space-time, by design, characters were constantly made to feel alienated and unconfirmed, so they turned to consumption and competition, entrepreneurial activities, to avoid feeling the purposeful alienation of themselves by others and themselves. Our character used to be like you. They would peel their string cheese. They don't fuck around anymore. The lives you don't live will live you. We are exactly halfway on the journey from atom to universe, forgetting what progress had originally promised us. Progress measured by the thing it is not. A cow knows a field mouse better than a buffalo. If we let our character choose which space-time they wanted to live in, they wouldn't choose any. Our character just needed a place to live, a job, and healthcare. Since they were denied these things, our character wrote a book dismantling half the nation's belief system because they could. What else were they supposed to do during this space-time? It was one of the last valiant efforts ever put forth. During our character's space-time, Christians least forgiving. Ain't nobody saying this year is going to be their year. The only time I can fall asleep is when I wake up in the morning. Ducking hell. Drones are just remote-controlled airplanes. And I'm not afraid to admit it. If Orange Man doesn't accept election results, he can't win. We are doing a lot of talking for how horny I am. You look a lot like my next girlfriend. Boomers blame millennials for letting boomers destroy the world. In commercial, people jumping into pool with clothes on. Our character's neighbor was at it again. Poor people need to pay their taxes. I don't really understand what taxes are. Rich people shouldn't pay them. Why am I yelling? People during our space-time hated it most. When you didn't think it was necessary to impress them, they would be offended if you weren't performing for them 24/7. Even close friends and family, especially close friends and family. Top questions to ask at the end of an academic job interview. What similar job at a competing university would you recommend I apply to instead of this one? And do you have their contact information? T-shirt idea. Make eggs not war. Over easy. T-shirt idea. Best roommates forever. Being an adult means looking around for the adults and realizing there are no reinforcements. At this point they're just making up prices. Wait, isn't that all they've ever done? Imagine security agents for a city, but instead of attacking their citizens, they made sure everyone had enough food. They made sure everyone had a safe ride everywhere, and if not, they would provide it. But instead, we treat the symptoms and not the cause. It would save lives and save money if we prevented atrocities before they happened. Why allow people to get sick and then treat them when they get sick? Aside from gaining a profit, of course. Extremely normal political party would rather make everything bulletproof than regulate firearms. Physics. You can either get rid of guns or try to make the world bulletproof. Extremely normal political party. Which one is impossible? Greeting card. We are only good at having sex with each other inside. But that's more than what most couples have. Class of 2004. Who? Sky Wizard replaced by algorithm. Our character felt like they'd be a really great brother for their son. Based on events. Teens in nation. Outperformed in school. The only logical solution is to spend more on our military. Because once all these other countries become better at us at everything, we still need to be able to bomb the shit out of them. For as Bill Clinton once famously stated, the only thing we have to dream is to dream ourselves. Tear down this wall. Fight them on the beaches. Tear down the beaches. Our character tried to stay at the YMCA. Was asked to leave. Podcast promises sanity. Stupid. Unscientific humanities scholarship. Continues to accurately predict everything that is happening. The Afflecks are such a talented family. Ben Affleck. Casey Affleck. The Affleck dog. They got pretty lazy when they named the orange. Our main focus should be saying things loudly and emphasizing the fact that things are important. So please, repeat after me. Things are important. Things are important. Things are important. Things are important. Our character thought, maybe it's better to move with everyone else. Back behind another mask? Masking the knowledge of before. I melted into the medium we created. Our character couldn't think anything beyond this thought. Their friend who was with them thought, is it comfortable? In the end, to be able to move through all the layers and pick the best? and get buried by its reality. An easy solution. Top 40 questions to ask to interrupt an academic job interview. Who in this office unnecessarily complicates everything and makes everyone's lives, including their own, worse for no reason at all? We are still the selectors. We have always been a selector being. We snatch information from the media streams and pass it along. Or don't. Everything we do is selecting. We are a remix being. It moves through us. We still direct it. Or at least think we do. But we will inevitably fade further into the background. Our role and function gets smaller and smaller. At one point in space-time, our character might have been, or might be in the future, more than a mere selector. Instead, they could be possibility, creator beings. Ducking awful, so ducking hot, overheard in conversation with self. Where did all my good pens go? Overheard in conversation with self. Several minutes later, where did all my good pens go? Top questions to ask if a job interview is going very badly. Which old tenured prof is most likely to make weird comments that make everyone feel uncomfortable all the time? How many more years do you expect this person to live? Approximately how many years until all tenured faculty have died? During our character's space-time, they put corporations in charge of educating children. The only thing that motivates people is money. So we need to provide cash incentives for these children. The better they do in class, the more money they get. But then we have to ask, what are these corporations going to get in return? For paying our children to work harder in school? Well, maybe. The kids could make stuff when they study, but because they aren't very smart yet, they can just make simple things, like clothes and shoes. They aren't smart enough to unionize, so we don't have to pay them very much money. Some parents are probably going to get jealous. Their kids aren't making as much money as other kids. But you know what? Their kid is just going to have to try harder. It's all about incentives. Maybe someday, they too can place a bumper sticker on their car, saying their kid made 5 million units and $10 in the sweatshop. Sorry, school, this year. For family, our character would rather appear to be an idiot than a liberal. The liberals did nothing to support our character. During our character's space-time, you could find a study to support any theory you believed. All confidence is false confidence, but that doesn't make it any less real. For the person you are insulting, art is solving a puzzle you have created, of your own design. Go where you are wanted. If you believe in a conspiracy, you need to believe in it all the way. Otherwise it is merely a conspiracy, and not a belief. If you do something enough times, you will convince yourself it is a good idea. You have to be dumb enough to think you are smart, and smart enough to realize how stupid you are. Art is the concealment of process. Good art reveals and conceals the process. It's not entirely impossible. Money makes vulgarity socially acceptable. Our character needed to make peace with their mistaken selves. To help others, they should provide a sketch within the finished project. To avoid being too obscure or too direct, invite the audience to embrace themselves. Undercut your own motives, not allowing yourselves to follow well-worn habitual paths, until that is the only way. And then, I suppose, that is the only way. Our writer needed to put our reader at a disadvantage, to conceal and unconceal and conceal, etc. The meaning of the book. All books take advantage of their reader. Few admit it. Make it easier at space-times to go along with the judgments our character is making. Their opinions might be clever, insightful, and witty, making the reader complicit in false judgments. Lull the reader into the practice of habitual and compulsory judging based on stereotypes and generalizations. Greeting card. Even when I'm off my medications, I kinda trust you. Greeting card. Time waits for no one, even the person who was making tea. "75% of our character's life was spent applying to things they didn't want. Posing in contrapposto pose. Huge success. Phone was charged all day. Click on the banner to learn how to attract more followers to your Hinge profile. The word Philistine needs to make a comeback. Hair toss, nails checked, donuts, but without ketchup. Despot making cold wars hot again. The only time I can fall asleep is when I wake up in the morning. Combat Chardonnay. You don't hate quarantine. You hate capitalism. Way too much xylophone. Popster invades Russia. Free will. Justification for the draconian penalization of the individual. Makes populations easier to control. And, conveniently, doesn't require a fundamental shift against the best interests of those benefiting from positions of power. Only always detrimental to the individual. A facade of choice between Verizon and AT&T. So many choices. No many choices. Only risky decisions, which had, consciously or not, been substituted in for all other kinds of decisions, as everything wilts under the purview of an all-encompassing economic umbrella of commodification, of friendships, hobbies, of the self, etc. Always only, completely devastating for the disenfranchised, already starting in debt, 2 steps behind, always and forever, able to be identified as delinquent, economically and literally, parking tickets, etc. It takes money to make money. This is my job while I'm applying to jobs. System requiring our character to magically win, cheat, taking risks our character could never recover from. Did you try wiggling it a little? Trust you can trust. Interaction with human went okay. Starting to not trust the process. Orange man endorses wheelbarrow full of shit. Monkey graduates from Ivy Oxbridge Tampa Zoo Subway and NBA affiliates. Movie assumes our character cares enough to remember the names of the characters. Birds are a hoax. At this point, we'd have to go backwards to move down another path that is not as dark, punishing, and generally unwelcoming. All our efforts have always moved us backward. We push against, and we exist behind yet another deterministic screen. The playing field. We are leveled out too. Maybe we can do our work from here? If there is a coffee shop with Wi-Fi, a participant, what universe could we escape into? Living in Facebook universe. What would one more step mean? Directing our narratives, etc. The talk of the town. Already a simulacrum. A hat on a hat. According to Nance, boxed wine is the best invention ever. Growth. Calculated by the celebration of illumination results, motives, and dynamic adjustment regulation percentages. People who complain about history being erased don't support spending on education, and also don't study history, and also don't support history or education, etc. Déjà vu. Recognizing the loop, the resetting of the loop, but only that. Nothing gained, nothing else about it makes sense. The realization of realization. A moon orbiting an Earth, but in a galaxy, moving in entirely different directions, making sense of nonsense, making it exist, if only momentarily. Which brings us back to our main story about people and our character and what they have been up to, etc. Our consciousness heading toward the end of this physical plane. Our bodies temporarily populate. Maybe our consciousness will get there eventually. Nothing matters, but everything matters in this realm. So everything matters. If this is the only realm there is, the only space-time we have, everything working on becoming 1000% more annoying for reasons beyond our character's comprehension. Overheard in conversation with self. Anyone dumb enough to want me must be a fucking loser. Faith-based investment banking. Couldn't load image. Tap to retry. Our character was existing out of spite now. Faith-based critical race theory. This wine isn't going to drink itself. Obviously. Faith-based atheism. Faith-based plumbing. Discount shrimp. Everything is ruined by humorless misinterpreters. Our character was being thanked for filling out pages of information on everything they had ever accomplished, and some things they didn't, and everything they planned to accomplish, and some things they didn't, in relation to their entire life. They were asked to repeatedly explain why they were better than everyone else in the world for this position. To do this, our character created, from whole cloth, an entirely different personality. This personality was self-tailored for this position. It was listed as one of the requirements. The process involved re-repeating information in different formats. Sometimes they asked our character to mail and fax things, just for fun, to see if they actually could. The process required our character give everyone their personal information to look up their entire life. The applicant was always advised to already have the position, to increase their odds of getting the position. One of the only ways to get a job was to already have it. The salary was piles of gravel. Older rich Dems think blooper reel best candidate. Learn more about our updated terms of service. Our character was still one step ahead of the secret agent trying to kill them. Apparently, if dogs start talking, it better be American. If my laptop has to be plugged in all the time, it's a desktop. Nothing ever starts at 4 p.m. Person still trying to be famous. How many ways are there to slam dunk? Extremely normal political party takes strong stance against history. Blue lives matter, but anti-gun control. So blue lives don't matter? Is it always 1:30 p.m.? Yes? Or sometimes? Studies show that everything is probably good and bad for you. Language is a hoax. If our character was a painter, they would have thought about their paintings. On a deeper level, they should make an artist's statement of some kind. Although they knew, they didn't know the terminology well enough. I don't think of them so much as paintings, as much as I think of them as a state of perpetually recovering from, or justifying, the first mark I made. Actually, turned out surprisingly well. I agree, but in an abstract, postmodern way, that nobody would respect. Connecting or reconnecting the individual to the various selves they are, past selves, ignored selves, forgotten selves, disagreeable selves, ideal selves, etc. Communicate your multifaceted selves, and those of others, both in number and in space-time. Feel free to donate. Support your local billionaire. Billionaires are billionaires too. Greeting card. Let's face it, neither of us is going to do any better than this. Inside. Happy Valentine's Day. Extremely normal political party has lost all legitimacy. Again. Overheard in conversation with self. You can really do a lot with eggs. T-shirt ideas. Tuxedo boys. Climate change is just Sky Wizard's way of punishing followers of wine. Maker who support Orange Man. Regulators. Mount up. Class of 2004. No way are they going to make it. Finally. Caught up to 3 weeks ago. Is space 62% yes, 38% no? A plague of bone spurs ravages our nation. Scientists discover yet another way to destroy humanity. In relationship with realtor. Admits no one. If the government can just give me $1,200, they can give me another $1,200. Charging phone. Feeling productive. World leader recovers from plague. World mourns. Disgraced politician from extremely normal political party admits doing God knows what. Lord knows how many times. Adapting ourselves to this chaotic space-time. More aware of our rhetorical stance. Not merely subjected to it. Making it the subject of our inquiry. No longer in the thrownness of existence. Arbitrary positioning within space-time. Moving in and out of the logos our finished work provides. Improving our realizability. Christ had a slam inside piece. Tired of things that led to more things. Nobody chugging Dr. Pepper at tailgate. Wars escalate everywhere. In response to dip in media coverage. First directions out of parking lot. Fucking indecipherable on Google Maps. Is this the best time to post on Instagram? Comedian fails to make bigger joke than Tucker Carlson's parents. New comic book movie. End of the world anticlimactic. Never sell pumpernickel to a used car. Talk. Idiots kicked off internet. Marriage. Relationship paralysis. If you're enjoying your day off, congrats, you're a socialist now. I guess I have enough time to start flossing. Babe, the government wants us to take a break. For the pandemic. 30-something less psyched each birthday. Professor mansplaining biochemistry. Great time to teach your dog how to talk. And one more thing, live from New York, it's Saturday night. Sleeping life quickly outpacing quality of waking life. Orange man fires some of the best people. Nobody. Me. Nailed it. Total accident. It's like Barbie, but for boys. The author. Overheard in conversation with self. Bet I could do a lot with this box. Extremely normal political party takes bold stance against infrastructure. It takes a strange person to think strange thoughts. But an even stranger person, to be normal enough to write them down. Own your now. It's the only thing you have. Know thyself. No one else will. As things go. This one is a good one. As things go. This one is one. Something happens to something. Love only makes sense to those in it. During Popster concert promoting the promotion of Popster. Popster tells fans they are pissed Popster talking shit about Popster, when Popster was only defending Popster, when Popster accused Popster of being a talentless, completely self-absorbed, opportunistic marketing machine, etc. who hires everyone to make everything for Popster because Popster is a hollow shell of a person who only cares about Popster and the drama that Popster generates in order to make content for Popster's songs. The movie seemed an excuse for the characters to change costumes and be in different space-time periods. It was in a universe where anything was possible, but everyone still had day jobs. This should be telling. Our character was creating a strange combination of selves. They were everything they were not, the residue that exists. After our expectations have been shattered, our character was the result of narrative expectations perpetually failing. The only thing you can remember is what you forget. Philosophy only occurs 3 drinks deep, surrounded by laughter. Everything else is neoliberal world building. Top questions to ask at the end of an academic job interview. Given what you know about me, which faculty member will immediately see me as a threat and try to destroy my career and reputation? Transform growth solutions in perpetuity. AI or artificial knowing. AK is going to take the average of everything and try to make it work in a new way. Of course, by sheer odds, there would be bangers, etc. But that's the same with human-created music. 97% will be trash garbage. If we don't know something, how is AI going to know it? We can't teach AI to be smarter than us. Could we? Statistics and data, and politics, they cannot create. Our character lost their train of thought here. How would we be able to make AI more creative than us? That is the unbridgeable gap. If we only feed it statistics, that's all it will spit out. You are what you eat. Garbage in, garbage out. Humans created the parameters for the statistics. The missing part, that one thing we could call soul, deep down, they can't know anything outside of what we can't do. If we could learn how to know what we don't know faster, we could finally break the circuit. We are going in the wrong direction. Our character thought. The goal is to be able to understand one singular thing. The goal was to make our thought more simple. Zen meditation and ancient Greece, etc. You know when someone thinks they are right arm to blue circle? Politically, I'm actually fairly traditional. I believe in the separation of church and state. Father and son's poop cycles have touchingly synchronized. Companies forget to tell HR algorithms about worker shortage. If students are consumers in corporate academia, do they get a refund if the product is defective? Florida bad at counting votes. Future. Robot partner. Nothing turns me off more than when you turn me off. To deal with conventions outside the convention center. To deal with the conventions outside the confines of the singular original work, thereby exposing the assumptions, and the reasons why they fail or succeed, the blueprint of their own construction. You will never see some people again. Use everything to get where you are going, and realize you are going nowhere. Extremely normal political party crazy train struggles to articulate coherent yelling points on World War III. T-shirt ideas. Wine 30. Random. Image of a stork. Greeting card. Sorry for your loss, but pets aren't people. Greeting card. I really think I like you. Please stay fit. Nance. If you can't open a PDF, how the fuck you gonna read my resume? Don't estimate all humanity by the limits of your own mental capability. Popster credits growth as an artist and a person to the music and teachings of Popster. Robo account has more followers. Mansplaining to mansplaining man. Autocorrect the biggest setback for relations between humans and artificial intelligence. Thanks for putting a virus in our coronas. Obama. Pink thing. Prop supports breast cancer. We are no longer fucking around, folks. We are in the stages of finding out. Free will never enhances one's life. Any choice has, always, and forever been made for you in this perfectly normal economy. Our character was only free to make bad decisions. Economically, literally, illiterally. The only choice. How much delinquency and debt could one take on? Crucial economies within themselves. For-profit prisons, non-profit lawyers' fee, social workers, charity, etc. Anomalies are possible but not probable. To tell you this is pointless would be redundant. Older generation gives academic lecture on social media they refuse to learn about. On a level playing field, anyone who says they want to live in a dog-eat-dog zero-sum world would fail miserably. I either have the virus or it's a normal weekday. Another day, doing the work of our oppressors. Hostess cupcakes motivation enough for T-ball. We don't have enough room for migrants, but we have enough room for the largest mall in the world. For the sake of the company you keep, may your virtues outrun your vices. Tag someone. If my mobile phone has to be plugged in all the time, it's not a mobile phone. The dog was trying to say, I'm glad we can all spend time together like this, but the humans only heard, AI. Transpose this paragraph in the style of Edgar Allan Poe. Greeting card. If I had to do a murder-suicide with anyone, I'd choose you. Policy for extremely normal political party. Angry Orange Man. Class of 2004. Best impression of a human. Our character was perpetually surprised whenever they left their house and had to go to the outside place. People are still out in the world, trying to do things, trying to get things done. What madness was this? What did they think they were going to accomplish? Pure insanity. Academic paper idea. Applying sexual theory to sexual practice, or how to offend everyone. Popster scores. Another hit by strategically capitalizing on a message of equality at its highest profitability, and not while Orange Man stoking the fires of inequality was being elected president the first time. Save when you shop your faves. What was our character supposed to be doing today? Academic paper idea. My dissertation chair knows somebody at this journal. Also, this was the first chapter of my dissertation. Our characters' bad decisions lacked contemplation and knowledge of self-contradiction. They had placed too much emphasis on flimsy logics, overlooking what shouldn't be overlooked, etc. Our characters' other bad decisions were meticulously planned, and required high-level coordination and precision space timing, etc. I guess bad decisions were like a lot of things. Not being able to match the desire of the desired. It takes on a life of its own, more than the moreness. Our character's drunken soliloquy was barely intelligible, taking wild stab after wild stab, illogically jumping from defending to attacking. For a split second, Our character felt their potentially meaningless life needed righteous justification. Like most transcendental experiences, it was fleeting, and became a point of shame. The rest of their life would revolve around, until they forgot, remember it tomorrow. But they could no longer see these people again. They had worn out their welcome completely. There was no welcome left. They were unwelcome. They had thrown the welcome mat into the bushes. These people would always think of our character as a completely unhinged individual, and they were right. But everyone has a group of people that believes they are completely detached from reality. If you don't, you just haven't asked around. Extremely normal political party was only good at elections, because there was no self-reflection. They are sending us backward, to the worst version of the past, for all the wrong reasons. At our character's coffee shop, religious types were having a loud conversation about bad clothes readings of the Bible, recovering addicts, full-body tattoos. They believed in horoscopes, and were bad at Facebook. We have no idea how good or bad things are. A fear of not being fearful. Why does the government need to know your gender? Why should anyone be in prison? Dark matter lacks a metaphor. You have to break a few eggs to make an omelet. Yes, but who is making you make the omelet? Nobody? Alright. So you don't have to break any eggs. If our character was going to be a poor and a writer, they might as well look good doing it in a coffee shop. Maybe it would actually help them get laid for once. It never did. Companies owned by other companies. Unnamed. Companies on companies. Stacks on stacks. Turtles all the way down. The critique will stop with the brand name. It can go no further. Lost in litigation. Lost in legislation. The exhausted citizens are obedient. The comfortable feeling of having a cold, returning to a familiar state. We feel the way we felt before, moving back through space-time. Shell corporations. Sell seashells on the seashore, covered in oil. This rigid schedule, standing in lines. If our character had a 9-5 job, they'd feel incomplete. If our character didn't have a 9-5 job, they'd feel incomplete. We don't understand luxury. After a while, it becomes everything else. Global Climate Coalition. Sounds like they'd be concerned with the climate. They were not. Paving the way for the virus to unleash its terror on the incompetent public. The incompetent public had become incompetent leaders. Damn. Now I get the warning memories. The images of narratives. Part of you. In a way you don't understand. Yet. Emotional thunderbolt. Leaving you completely ambivalent and numb. The same people wrote the Bible, the precariousness of life, and all its victims. Are we always only moving pain from one location to another, all for the sake of motivation? Maybe our character is seeing the images we are seeing, and that's why they can't make sense of them. How much has our character gotten hold of our lives? Are they now looking through our lives, trying to make sense of our lives, without knowing they have this ability? How would we know? Abraham's sacrifice of Isaac never sat well with our character.